So welcome back. I would like to introduce you the moderator of the next panel. The next panel is going to get into more specific aspects of the legal and operational framework of shared ownership. We have as moderator of this panel Eric Gummers, who is a true expert of the industry. So without further ado, I leave you with Eric Gummers.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm going to walk about. I spend most of my life sitting down, so I'm just going to walk and talk a little bit. I'm going to hand over now to my friend here, Vassilis. He's going to talk a little about the Greek position and things. So, Vassilis.
My good old friends, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the lunch in this unique spot opposite to Acropolis. To be honest with you, they say lawyers are boring when they speak. I agree. So for those of you feeling that you can have a light afternoon siesta, I will try to contribute. Coming now to our subject for the rest, I will try to focus to general remarks, and then in the panel we will have the opportunity to go in more details on whatever you want to discuss. It is true that in recent decades, Greece's main competitors in the area of incoming tourism have been Turkey and Egypt. Incoming tourism through tour operators. Greece has traditionally had many competitive advantages over these neighboring countries, but lately it would appear that Greece has a singular, serious disadvantage, and this is the euro currency. Using your home currency on holidays and a strong currency, you are easily able to compare prices, and you are much more conservative in spending whatever you have in your wallet. So Greece had to give a reply. And the answer of Greece and its administration to this challenge has been formulated over the last 2.5 years. And this is the differentiation. Better hotel and resort complexes, better infrastructure, better service, and increased quality. In its endeavor to attract the individual looking for quality vacation options, the Greek state has invested heavily, also because of the Olympic Games as well, in the upgrading of both the public and the private infrastructure systems. Therefore, and at the same time, it has facilitated the concept of the development of the, as I call it, secondary home, second home, holiday home. Let's focus now to the fractional interests. From a literal standpoint, the terms timeshare and fractional are often interchangeable. From the legal standpoint, based on existing Greek local legislation, they are also treated in the same way. Greek law provides for the form of a timeshare lease contract, establishing a right in personam, not in rem, not real estate. As you know, the special feature of a timeshare lease contract is that it does not bestow a right of continuous rental for the life of the contract, but rather a right solely to the specified number of days, weeks, or months every year. In other words, the lessor undertakes to give its year to the lessee for a period stipulated in the contract, use of a holiday dwelling, and the associated and the related services. Existing Greek timeshare legislation provides that such period can be up to 60 years. And from the legal standpoint, I can tell you that this can be renewed. Therefore, go to 120 years. Local legislation has also established guidelines requiring notary and land registration procedures for the operation of relevant timeshare or fractional schemes. This is, we have to know, a restrictive legislative clause which, if infringed by the contracting parties, it will result in the lease being rendered invalid and of no effect. The purpose of adopting such a measure is for the protection of the buyer, is to ensure the legal and economic security of the lessee in a domain in which he is naturally the weaker party. Within the statutory framework we are talking about, the developer must obtain a timeshare or fractional license by the Ministry of Tourism. Further, the developer has to file for approval with the same authority regulations governing the relationship between him as a developer and the clients or the lessees. A final point to mention with respect to existing timeshare or fractional lease legislation is that in accordance with the Greek tax rules, the income of the developer deriving from the timeshare lease is divided by the years of the relevant lease agreement. And thus, therefore, it is taxable on a pro rata yearly basis. Therefore, you are not taxed only during the years you are receiving the income, but throughout the term of the contract, throughout the term you are providing the services. What about the share ownership concept? It is true that some developers are of the opinion that the fractional product should be positioned very much as a real estate offering in order to provide a sensible and affordable alternative to second home ownership. In other words, not a long lease, but a real estate title in perpetuity, not for up to 60 years. The Greek legal system provides for horizontal ownership, according to which the purchaser becomes full or partial, even in time, owner of an apartment, of the apartment itself, and co-owner or co-user for other uses of the property on which the apartments have been constructed. This, however, does not apply in the case of a sale of shared ownership in apartments of hotels and resorts. And there, this is a problem. The existing legislation governing hotel and resorts development and operation needs improvement, needs modification in order to fit with the requirements of the concept of the shared ownership. The Greek Ministry of Tourism has identified this and is working together with the pertinent ministry, the Ministry of Public Works, Town Planning and Environment, for the introduction of a very specific legislation. From our side, we are constantly working and assisting these ministries, especially the Ministry of Tourism, in its endeavor to introduce the appropriate legislation for that, as well as to define and apply certain rules which will differentiate the criteria of a fractional product from a timeshare product, such as quality standards, services, financial stability, hospitality expertise, etc. Legal structures of leisure and real estate projects. Very briefly, our opinion is that the fractional interests will be much more attractive if they are offered as a direct title, either lease or ownership title. Maybe using a trustee system or an escrow holder, a bank, for the security of the transactions. We could also recommend that the Greek leisure industry would also benefit greatly by the introduction and implementation of something quite unknown in Greece, and I think in many other places in Europe, which is the title insurance concept. This will free the buyer from worries and various uncertainties he may feel because he's investing his monies, he's paying in a territory he does not feel that it is at his home country. Finally, it would be fair to say that the timeshare and multi-lease legal structures used in Greece, and this is the evaluation, I'm talking to you, used in Greece during the last 20 years have been successful from the legal point of view. We estimate that during that period, more than 50,000 timeshare contracts have been executed without problems. Something like 50% of them with Greek purchasers, which was direct title, and the rest with non-Greek purchasers through club trustee legal schemes. In closing, let me make the following statements. I'm not a politician, I'm a lawyer, but the political will is here. You saw some statements yesterday, you can find it wherever you will have the opportunity to see the politicians. Mr. Tigritakis also stated that this morning. The legal infrastructure is in place. The Greek timeshare law was amongst the first introduced in Europe about the leasehold concept in 1986. It has remained unchanged and it has been as the model for many other jurisdictions. The preconditions for a successful product are here. If I may add something else, is the dynamic growth and stability of the Greek economy, which is a positive factor for someone who wishes to invest. And as a last point, as it was said yesterday, for those interested in investing in Greece, the Greek state offers a most attractive incentive tool, the attractive and sizable state grants, which comprise a non-refundable contribution, you don't have to give them back, of up to 50% of the total investment, either for existing hotel complexes, for reasons of upgrading, or for new hotel and touristic developments. Well, this is what briefly I would like to state. If you allow me, I would leave you with one piece of advice addressed to the same people. Greece is not only the Greek islands, and definitely Greece, for the purposes of our discussions, is not Athens. You have to discover mainland Greece, such as Peloponnese, and there are good examples of new huge developments including these concepts there, Western Greece, Northern Greece. To discover the wealth of business opportunity Greece has to offer you there. Mainland Greece combines a remarkable range of alternating landscapes and seascapes, which are breathtaking, but it also provides sophisticated, accessible infrastructure and services, unspoiled destinations, and cultural authenticity. Thank you for your time.
I was wondering if we had some questions for Vassilis just between the speakers. I wanted there will be a chance for questions at the end, but I thought we might take the opportunity, Vassilis, if that would be okay. So now's your chance. You've heard a snapshot in relation to Greece. You've heard a snapshot in relation to Spain and Portugal. Please.
Are fractional ownership concepts compatible with Greek legislation or not?
Yes. As I explained earlier, for us, there are two kinds of concept. One is the leasehold, in other words, fractional ownership through a long lease, up to 60 years, and the Greek existing legislation about time sharing could equally apply, with some minor modifications regarding something to distinguish between a timeshare product and a fractional product. And this is something we work, and we will have it soon. But nobody can stop you from starting that even today. But if you want to sell shared ownership, in the sense that you sell a title in perpetuity, there are many reasons why we should not recommend it to do it now. Because if you do it as a standalone project without having the coverage of the hotel license we have in Greece, then the cover area, it is very limited, the percentage you can cover in villas, etc. If you do it as a hotel, you cannot have it, because a hotel cannot sell part of its property to individuals. This is what we try to combine right now, and we assist and advise the government on making these steps so that we have both options. But I said yes because the traditional way, which is based on the leasehold concept, yes, it can work right now immediately. Practically speaking, from the legal standpoint, the rules which are applicable for a timeshare project can be applicable here. The time is different. And of course, the product itself may be the client basis and other elements which are not legal. But from the legal point of view, I have to repeat it and to emphasize, we have a very good legislation and very well tested.
Okay. Could I just follow up to that and ask, because it's also sequential to the next session, just end user finance?
There is end user finance. Traditionally, the Greek banks provide finance to timeshare owners. Keep in mind that for Greeks, the Greeks do not like the membership concept. They prefer the direct title. They prefer their name to be registered at the land registry, although this creates bureaucratic problems because you have to do the same work for each individual, but they prefer it. And I guess many other Europeans, we have tested that with Germans, maybe with French. The British colleagues of mine are very lucky because they have trained their own people to work more with the club trustee concept. So the banks are financing these products In fact, we have many banks requesting, coming to us and say, do you have any product like that to finance? They like it. Later on, you will have Mr. Konstantopoulos, who is on that side, and he will explain more. And also, I have to tell you that we see also the banks giving substantial loans for that kind of developments. We have a very recent example. The bank financed a development. The participation of the owner was 25%. The participation of the Greek state through the state grants was 35–40%, and the rest was a private bank's financing through the issuance of a bond loan. So the whole setup is ready.
Some more questions, please? Yes, over there, please. Ward.
Jerry, I'd just like to follow up a little bit on what's been just discussed there. The clients that you're selling to in Portugal, are they British clients or Portuguese, or where are they from?
The majority British and Irish, although there are other Europeans too, but mostly British and Irish, yes.
And have you seen a resistance to purchasing what they think is a freehold property using this certificate system, a trustee system effectively?
Not a resistance, some difficulty in explaining it sometimes, of course, because it is more cumbersome than we'd like it to be, but it is by design more cumbersome. So in the end, it's okay. We tend to find ourselves dealing with clients, financial advisors, and having to just explain the system to them perhaps, but not so that it's a problem now.
Could I just talk, I was going to ask about because this came, the protections for the consumer in Greece?
Well, in Greece we have implemented the European directives regarding the protection of the consumer on timeshare sales and timeshare techniques, and they are equally applicable.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think you thought you were going to hear about legal structures and the like, but you now have two membership organisations where I'm sure they'll be looking to you with open arms. So I think we've done that. With your permission, I think I'd bring this session to an end. Of course, you're very welcome to catch the individuals later and ask for further questions. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that was of some use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Previn. Thank you to all of you. You are part of the last Mohicans. You have remained here for the full day. It was a long day. If we add it to yesterday, I think it has been quite an interesting symposium with a lot of content. It was only yesterday afternoon, after some of you participating in the workshop, when we started, and I think there has been a lot that has been covered in this day and a half. Then we had our break for lunch, and we had to face two very challenging sessions in the afternoon. After lunch, it's difficult time. Someone referred to siesta times and all that, and I think it was fantastic how Avramopoulos said he wanted to contribute to that, but I think he did quite the opposite. He did contribute to keep us awake, and I think the ability of our panelists in the legal session was that they kept us awake. I mean, they treated the legal aspect and the operational aspect from a very lively perspective, and I think the debate that went on was also very interesting. It was interesting to learn this shift of the Greek tourism, the Greek timeshare industry through its association, renaming the association to become the Greek Leisure Real Estate Association, and having timeshare as part of that new association. I know that OTE might have some issues with that, but I think it's an interesting, refreshing move as well. Now, just before I say goodbye, I would like to give you some indications about how important it is for us to have your feedback, to really get an understanding of what is it that we have done wrong. Well, we don't mind knowing if we have done something right as well, to know it, because all of us have a certain ego on that, but we prefer to know what is it that we have done wrong so that we can change it. So you will be receiving by email questionnaires with very simple questions. We will highly appreciate if you just take a few minutes of your time and just kick off some of the boxes and tell us what you thought about this symposium and how can we improve for future symposiums. As Bremen has said, the presentations will be in the North Course website, and he also referred to the other symposiums we are planning. The next one will take place in Dubai in May, or in the Middle East area, in the Gulf area. The North American one is confirmed in New York in the first week of June. I don't have the dates on top of my head. It's going to happen alongside with the New York University Hospitality Conference. We're also going to have our Asian one in Hong Kong in early October, and we will have the European one along this time next year. We still don't know exactly where. So that's about it. I think I only have one more thing to tell you, is that the Royal Suite is still going to be open for all the participants of the symposium. And the only thing that remains is rendering tribute to our host country. Because Greece has been, and Athens in particular, has gifted us with great hospitality, great weather, great people, and as a tribute to Greece, our host country, we would like to play some Greek music as a farewell. And thank you all for your participation in the symposium and your contributions. Thank you.